Hi guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be going to the city of Chula Vista. Chula Vista is pretty big. It's pretty well spread out. It can take you up to a half hour to get from one point to the other. And it would be that long of a duration, especially if you're going through the streets. Not an expressway. With that being said, you know, uh, you want to think that this happens more than often, but you know, to give you a real number, account for the fact that a lot of these actual crimes do not get reported. They get handled in a different way. They get handled with a different outcome if you were to involve law enforcement. But apparently, these actual individuals thought they had a well thought out plan. But someone did the right thing, alerted law enforcement, and avoided what could have been a very, very bad situation for a family. If it's for a family, I don't know, but to a home where I assume a family lived. So they finally got to the actual defendant this past week, the sixth and final defendant charged in a state court for his involvement in a foiled Chula Vista resident robbery. He was sentenced to 3 years in state prison. That's not enough, man. For the attempt that they were going to do, no. This individual by the name of Jesus and five co-defendants all previously pled guilty for their roles in the robbery conspiracy. Jesus was the last defendant to be sentenced. Now, in an individual by the name Mario, Nicolas, Marco, Tomas, Ignacio, and of course Jesus were all arrested January 31st, 2020, following their failed attempt to rob what they believed to be a residence containing approximately $1 million in illegal drug trafficking proceeds. See, that's where the thing is. A lot of this stuff doesn't get reported for the fact that who can justify having $1 million in cash in a home? How are you going to report that as stolen from your home? See, so apparently, uh, Ignacio was a prior officer in the military, in a Mexican military, while Jesus and Marco were officers of the Tijuana Municipal Police Department at the time of their arrest. So they were actually sworn in officers. Jesus had recently been promoted to district chief in charge of the Presa Rule, a district in southeast Tijuana. Presa is the dam, so the dam, where the dam is. Two of the defendants were known to law enforcement prior to their arrest, and they were also known to be actively seeking a large target in the South Bay area, which contained large amounts of bulk money. The San Diego FBI-led Major Mexican Traffickers Task Force devised a plan to draw the defendants to a house alleged to contain over $1 million in cash to identify all members of the conspiracy and to prevent the criminal group from successfully locating an actual target. Okay, so these guys were actually fishing for an actual target. Somebody got into a jam, actually presented it to law enforcement. Law enforcement found it credible and created this actual trap. So there was no actual this family did not this home did not exist. They actually created this home as a target. So there, that's good right there. As alleged in the criminal complaint and noted in the plea agreement, the defendants, actual Marco and Ignacio and Jesus, each Mexican national, crossed into the United States from Mexico, while the defendants, actual Mario and Nicholas, oh no, actually Tomas, uh, they actually they came from actual Riverside. They drove from actual Riverside. And who was the other one? And Nicholas. They actually drove from San Bernardino County to Chula Vista, all with the intent of robbing a residence they believe contained approximately $1 million in cash. And according to the actual plan, the group met in a vicinity of a strip mall parking lot in Chula Vista with an undercover agent where three of the defendants admitted to personally being armed with firearms. Well, three of them actually came strapped. The ones that from over here, because the one you can't cross with actual. If you get caught crossing with the at the border with the gun into the U.S., you can get pretty much arrested on the spot there. All six defendants then traveled to a house in Chula Vista in three separate vehicles, with at least one vehicle providing counter surveillance in the surrounding neighborhood. When one of them actually exited the vehicle and approached the target residence, law enforcement intervened through coordinated tactic efforts, and all six were simultaneously taken into custody without incident. So, um, and one of the actual resources that they can actually use to acquire a somewhat furnished home would be through an insurance agent. For example, if your house burns and you can no longer live if that house in that house until it gets repaired, if you have the right insurance, your insurance company will provide you a house equivalent to the one that burned down for you, furnished, while you arrange the reconstruction of your home. And these are pretty nice homes, by the way. And they'll put you up, and then as long as you actually, they'll find it a reasonable time. They'll give you enough time, and that's where they can actually acquire these furnished homes. And they're just like B&Bs, like rentals, but for um, insurance companies. So apparently, these defendants armed themselves with guns and traveled to a house that they expected to be occupied with people. Their plan was to tie those people up, take their phones, and search for $1 million they believed to be inside. And this, according to one of the quotes, this case serves as a great example of why we work in the task force environment. That's true. And um, like I said, Chula Vista is about anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, depending what part of the city you're in, to get to that actual border. So it's very, very tempting to commit a crime and just drive across as a quick getaway. Now, as for the government, the FBI, you can almost bet that they had an actual airplane and a helicopter readily available to catch flight in case somebody was to actually try to get away and go for the border. Now, for the actual crossing of the border by helicopter or by plane. Now, you can cross a U.S. Uh, actual law enforcement helicopter can cross into Tijuana, into Mexico, but they cannot land. They could be actually eyes in the sky, but they cannot land at any point, or else they're subject to being arrested. They will arrest you until they clear everything up. So you can actually cross the border with your helicopter or plane, and and as long as you don't land in their actual soil, you'll be all right. And as for uh, families living in the U.S. That have that type of money, they do exist, and especially in Chula Vista. Um, they are luxury homes, but they're not out of the way too extravagant to cause a lot of attention. But these are nice homes in nice neighborhoods with nice private high schools and nice private elementary and junior high schools. Very, very nice. Catholic too. And so when you actually create that environment, it's tempting for you to cross over to the US and be safer for your family. And that also goes for actual law enforcement that actually work in Tijuana that set up their actual families here in the US to have them a little bit more safe, to be more safe. And I'll tell you this also that it would not be a rare sight if you were to see an individual that might look like an actual homeboy. I don't want to say a gang member because you don't know if they're a gang member. An actual homeboy posted up in a vehicle in front of the actual driveway. Keep an eye on things out front. That would not be out of place. And as for the temptation for these actual cartels, it's there. and many have tried, but I mean, I'm not saying that they're actually not successful, but I mean, it's just a risk on all the way around, you know. Okay, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, guys, yeah, you know, I almost forgot. So we also have an actual the sentences for these individuals. Mario received for the charges of conspiracy to commit robbery while armed with a firearm, felon in possession with a firearm. He actually received 6 years in state prison. Tomas, conspiracy to commit robbery while armed with a firearm, felon in possession of a firearm, to 4 years in state prison. Nicholas, conspiracy to commit robbery while armed with a firearm, to 4 years in state prison. And Marco, conspiracy to commit robbery while vicariously armed with a firearm, 2 years in state prison. Ignacio, same charge, vicarious armed with a firearm, to 3 years in state prison. And Jesus, the Mexican national, he received 3 years in state prison. Now, there was only 3 individuals that were actually armed, but these were six suspects, right? Well, for the fact that they actually enhanced their crime to an armed robbery, they will all get charged with armed robbery. It does not matter if they were armed or not. It doesn't matter if they've ever shot a weapon. Since one of them was actually armed, there's actually three of them. They will all be charged with actual armed with a firearm. That's why the vicariously is that's where that falls into place. Okay, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.